the Canby City Council meeting for December 5th, 2018. If you will please stand for the invocation and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, we have moved from a season of giving thanks into a season of giving and hope and excitement of the Christmas season. Tonight, specifically, one of our counselors is grieving tonight over the loss of her parent. I just ask you lift her up and care for her and continue to support her in this time of need. Bless the city, bless this council, bless everyone that is traveling, keep them all safe this holiday season. And I ask these things in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. A couple of proclamations this evening. The first one is for the Kiwanis Canby Community Food and Toy Drive. Whereas the Kiwanis Canby Community Food and Toy Drive originated for the purpose of providing toys and food for less fortunate families in our community, and whereas by way of this proclamation, the City of Canby recognizes that greater public awareness and involvement is needed in order for such programs to achieve their highest potential in providing and promoting joy to each household in this community, and whereas Canby community members have undertaken the project of collecting and distributing toys and food to these needy families during the month of December, and whereas donations for food baskets can be left at various locations around Canby. Now therefore I, Brian Hodson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Canby, do hereby proclaim December 9th through December 15th as Kiwanis Canby Community Food and Toy Drive Week, and urge all people in the City of Canby to observe this time by participating in this toy and food drive, helping to provide assurance that each family may have a twinkle in their eye this holiday season. Given unto my hand this 5th day of December 2018. And Tony Crawford is here to accept this. And say a few words, I believe. Yes?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Well, I know you have a few things to say.
Thank you.
Tony.
Well, good evening, Mayor Hodson, city councilors, city administrators, and members of the audience. My name is Tony Crawford, and I am proud to say I am the current president of Canby Kiwanis. The year 2018 marks two significant landmarks for Canby Kiwanis. First, this year our organization celebrated its 80th anniversary of service to our community. Second, 2018 marks the 60th anniversary of our annual Community Food and Toy Drive. For 60 years, members of Canby Kiwanis have helped organize the Canby community to help serve those in need during the holiday season. Last year, for example, 400 Canby families received boxes of food and 1,100 Canby children received toys for Christmas. The food and toys received, however, would not be possible without the tremendous generosity offered by those of us who call Canby home. At this time, there are 60 donation barrels and boxes located throughout our community. To those who offer donations of food or toys, I wish to say that 100% of your donation stays right here in Canby. We make a point of taking care of our own. For those who have not yet offered a contribution, please know you have through next Tuesday to leave a donation at one of the barrels. Also, I should mention that cash contributions are also greatly appreciated Each year, Canby Kiwanis uses the cash received to purchase supplemental food and toys to fill out the boxes and bags of toys. And yes, all of the purchases are made here with Canby businesses. Finally, I want to invite everyone in the sound of my voice to join us for work parties at the county fairgrounds to prepare the food boxes and bags of toys. We begin this Saturday, 12 noon through 5 p.m., and will continue during the evenings, 5:30 to 8, next Monday through Thursday. I do advise checking the Canby Kiwanis webpage and Facebook page each day for updates regarding work parties. Our pickup day for families receiving food and toys is Friday, December 14th, 12 noon through 6 p.m. For those families not able to pick up on their own, we provide delivery Saturday, December 15th from 8 a.m. till noon. I wish to ask once again for all those in the sound of my voice to consider being one of our volunteer drivers on Saturday. And Mr. Mayor, I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to express the deepest gratitude members of Canby Kiwanis have for the generosity, compassion, and love expressed by the residents of our community to make an event like the Food and Toy Drive possible. Canby, Oregon is truly a special place. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, for your support. Greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you, Tony, very much.
Now, I understand at this time you have some contributions for the Food and Toy Drive, and we have some members of Canby Kiwanis ready to come pick up what you've brought tonight.
Perfect. Sounds like great timing. We have stuff, and there's people here to collect it. That's
Perfect. So who's got the bags? Here we go.
Well, I will just say that I think when Tony and I met, I think last week, talked about tonight, and Tony, the Kiwanis group has been doing this for how long?
This is our 60th continuous year, started in 1958.
To sit there and kind of go, it's been great that we've been doing it for 60 years, but at the same time, it's the fact that we've been having to do this for 60 years. It's kind of that catch-22 in terms of, that piece of it. So, as Tony said, if you are out, pick up a few items. There are barrels all over town. Please, drop them off and, leaky flour bag.
There is one additional thing, if I might suggest, Mr. Mayor. We just received a check. Thank you very much. If there are parents out there who are looking for a great way to get their children reconnected with what the holiday season is truly supposed to be all about, bring your kids to one of our work parties. I've been doing this for years with my own children and grandchildren. In fact, my own family story is we have 4 generations of my family all working elbow to elbow at our various work parties. It's life transforming. I've watched this with my own children and grandchildren, and I've seen it with other kids who used to be my own students, and it's just the coolest thing ever. So parents, bring your kids.
I agree.
We've got something for them to do. Okay?
Perfect.
All right. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it very much. The second proclamation this evening is the mayor and council election, so the results of those. So whereas the City of Canby, County of Clackamas, Oregon, held a general election on November 6, 2018, and whereas the Clackamas County Elections Department offers the following abstract as an official count of votes as of November 21st, 2018. So for mayor, Brian Hodson, 4,277 votes. Undervotes were 3,233. Overvotes were 0. Write-ins, 309. City Council, Greg Parker, 3,386 votes. Sean Varwig, 3,170 votes. Tracy Height, 4,288 votes. Undervotes were 12,288. Overvotes were 0. And write-ins were 325. Whereas the 3 people receiving the most votes for City Council will be selected to 4-year terms on the Canby City Council. Now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, Mayor of the City of Canby, Oregon, do hereby proclaim the foregoing to be a true and accurate accounting as presented by the Clackamas County Elections Division dated November 21st, 2018, dated this 5th day of December 2018. So the results are in, and I guess we're official. We'll be sworn in the first meeting in January. Move into communications. Anything at this time, Mr. Robinson? First opportunity for citizen input and community announcements. So if there's this is an opportunity for the audience members to address the City Council on non-agenda items. So if there's anything else you want to make an announcement about or ask the council about, you have 3 minutes. You can come up and please fill out your little yellow card, make sure that our city recorder gets it, and then you can ask away or comment away or announce away. Okay, seeing none, we will move into mayor's business. It was a busy month, but a couple of the highlights. So Park Advisory Board update for the council. So we had a discussion. So the last meeting was going and giving some direction to the Park Advisory Board to get a jump start on some of the projects that we suspect will be highly anticipated out of the park master plan that's being worked on. So splash pad, dog park piece, and then perhaps some aspects or components of working with the state on some things with Malala State Park. So they're jumped right in and got into a deep conversation about the splash pad, and they're working on some things that they'll probably bring back for us. Probably not our next meeting, so it'll probably be in January. So I'll keep you posted on that. Clackamas County Coordinating Committee is tomorrow evening, so I'll report back on that in January. The Metro Mayor's Consortium group that I meet with is next week as well, so I have nothing on that. Had a meeting with some of the, Mr. Robinson and I had a meeting with some of the property owners in the industrial park to discuss some of the pieces on the transportation plan, truck routes, and some concerns that were brought up at our last meeting. So we had it's like an hour and a half long meeting just to address their concerns and hear some greater detail about those concerns and whatnot. So and we'll get into some of the outcomes from that, I think, in our conversation later this evening. And finally, this Friday is Light the Night. So first Friday and Light the Night coincide. So we have our parade at 6 o'clock, and then the tree and park lighting will follow after that. So come down. I think, according to Cupertino and Apple, it's supposed to be nice and chilly, but please come down. Last year we had several thousand people come down for the Christmas tree lighting and the park lighting. So hope to see everyone there for that, and enjoy First Friday. So that's all that I have this week. We'll start with Councilor Smith in one of his final reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would report that the fire district would like to say a few words. Chief Davis.
Pass the buck.
Yep. Hand that off.
Well, first of all, I haven't seen you since Thanksgiving, so I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and wish you guys all a happy holiday season too, as well. And since I haven't been here since the election, I just wanted to thank you and the community of Canby for the support on the bond issue, which passed, as everybody knows, by over 64%. As you guys know me and our board, we're not sitting still, so we've already started work moving forward to complete the projects that we promised the voters we would do. And so we're, as you know, taking care of the necessary resolutions and formalities with our board so that we can move forward with these projects, and hope to put out the bid for our loans sometime in January. Take about 6 weeks, but staff is hard at work doing our supplemental budgets for this year, as well as preparations for the bond budget for next year, and identifying those projects as far as when we're going to be completing those projects. More importantly, we have 2 major retirements at the end of this month. After over 30 years with the city and the fire district, Chief Todd Gary, who's here tonight, is retiring at the end of this month and will be working back. So you'll still see him around for about 4 to 6 months. It depends. Once you get that PERS check, you know, he might just not show up one day. So we'll see.
And that's so his style, too.
Yeah, that's his style. So I just sincerely want to, applaud Todd for the 30 years of dedication to the Canby community and Canby Fire District. I am going to personally miss him since being with Canby Fire as a volunteer and as chief and stuff. I depend on him considerably for numerous projects, but he's still going to be around, so I know where to find him. The other person after 28 years is Captain Bob Bonnell. He's a shift captain with Canby Fire District, and he's announced his retirement at the end of this month, and he'll be working back 4 months, but Bob's leadership will be missed as well. So just like the police department and other areas of the city, we're feeling it as well as far as retirements go, but we have some really sharp people to step into their boots and to take their place. As the mayor has already stated, we got a lot of activities happening this weekend with the Light Up the Night. Strongly encourage everybody to come out. I want to compliment the city as well as the Public Works for the job that they did on First Street. I think it really looks good. I'm proud of the job that was done as a citizen. I mean, I think it really, really looks nice down there, and look forward to the lighting of the park too. So I hope everybody can make it down to that. Saturday morning we have Breakfast with Santa that we're doing over at the fairgrounds, and at the same time we have Operation Snuggle happening over at Baker Prairie. We're not quite sure. We've heard rumor that the Canby Police Department may not be there, but they may win this year since they're not going to be there. We'll figure out how to make that happen for them. But anyway, and then we end the weekend with the Canby Fire Department annual Christmas dinner for appreciation for our firefighters and volunteer firefighters that serve the community. So thank you very much.
And if I'm not mistaken, Chief, even though we may be losing our captain of the city staff here shortly, the fire district has somebody competent at the helm at least for another few years, right?
Yep.
You re-upped, I believe, right, recently.
So those of you at home, and thanks, Chief, for mentioning Operation Snuggle. So Operation Snuggle is turned into I think even from year one, was a friendly competition. So Operation Snuggle was a group that was started by a Canby high school student and her family, and it has just grown immensely. But what it is large numbers of the community get together and they do tie blankets for homeless children here in Canby School District, and I believe we're also doing it in Molalla this year as well. And so it's turned into a competition between Canby Fire and Canby Police. And usually I think Canby Fire brings in a good 10, 15 guys and gals to work on 20? Chief is Chief Smith.
Keep going.
The police count says it's 20. They work like 20, but I think it's really only 10. And then the police department is usually represented by a couple of officers and then a smattering of those that want to help them out. And so it's usually been and I was wondering how that was going to work this year with the fire pancake breakfast. And so Chief Smith, this could be the year. I'm just thinking,
We're doing shop with a cop this year.
Oh, are you?
I think there's a strategic plan behind all that.
Okay, all right. Well,
It's rigged.
all right, you guys get the year off and then rekindle it for next year, right? Okay. But thank you, Chief, for everything. And Todd, we wish you all the best. And thank you for everything that you have done for Canby Fire and stepping in and being the fire marshal these last couple of years. You've been great in that role, and you've left big shoes to fill. So thank you very, very much for your service to our community.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
The Planning Commission, the mayor and city administrator have organized interviews for future Planning Commission chair candidates. That'll be taking place later this month. There are 3 open seats in the Planning Commission that will be filled through those applicants.
Yeah, we're doing that on the 17th. Yeah. Perfect. Anything else, sir? Nope. Okay. Councilor Parker.
Just 2 liaison reports. The Bike and Ped Committee, which usually meets the last week of the month in December and November, of course, that's problematic given the holidays. So they have moved they've combined the November-December Bike Ped Committee to next Tuesday, the 11th, at 6:30 in the backstop meeting area. And so I've invited the councilors to drop by and say hi. It's kind of a meeting and kind of a holiday celebration. So that's at 6:30 on Tuesday at the backstop. And then the only other thing, and I thought this was kind of interesting with the Historic Landmark Committee, is that they are reviewing a proposal from the owner of the old City Hall for changes in the City Hall, working with the our city planning director to determine whether the proposed changes are significant enough to trigger a public involvement process or whether it is an administrative role. So our Historic Landmark Committee is on that one. That's it.
Great. Thank you, sir. Council President Dale.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. For personal activities, I attended the Veterans Day Memorial along with yourself and other councilors. That's at our own Vietnam Memorial over by Burgerville. With Canby Utility, this is the time of year everyone in their utility bills here in Canby gets this Share the Warmth announcement letter here. Share the Warmth is a program that Canby Utilities had for a number of years to help those in our community that need some extra help in the winter to pay their electric bills, especially when they're so high due to heating. This program, Share the Warmth, is largely funded just by donations of Canby Utility customers. Your donations are tax deductible, and there's an address in your flyer, or you can get it on the website if you want to go ahead and help out a fellow Canby neighbor make it through the winter getting their heating bills paid. If you, on the other hand, need some help with your heating bill, you can find the details at Canby Utilities website. That's canbyutility.org, or you can give a phone call to Canby Adult Center. That's actually who the applications are made through, is at the Adult Center. And finally, some late-breaking news. The federal agency in charge of basically the quality of watersheds in the United States has recognized that Canby's drinking watershed is not only very important, but there's some opportunities to help keep it safe for the future. And so to say we've been awarded a special recognition would be an overstatement, but it's been recognized, and there's some money and assistance available. And stay tuned to that, as Canby Utility will be working on some programs and some grant monies along with other folks upstream like in Molalla to help keep our watershed good and safe for many years to come. But it's nice to be have that opportunity come our way. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Height.
Yeah, so Canby Area Transit is having their customer open house and holiday light tour on December 18th. They've done this for many years in a row. This year it's in the Willamette Room over there at 6 p.m. So if you want to show up, get some cookies and door prizes, it's kind of fun. Otherwise, they also have a bus tour. If you pay $1, the bus will actually come to your house if you register in advance, and then tour around for an hour and then end up at the Willamette Room there, and then they take you back home. So even if you're not a customer, you're welcome to join in on the fun there. I missed the school board meeting, and the library board canceled theirs because it was Thanksgiving week. But I did attend last week. It's the Oregon Passenger Rail. So I'm involved in this actually through my work. I helped set up the open house. But basically, it does apply to Canby. So it was ODOT and the Federal Railroad Administration. So there were 2 recommendations. They looked at basically this draft environmental impact statement from Eugene to Portland, that passenger rail. And they looked at a higher speed rail that would go closer to kind of parallel I-5 or maintain the existing one that goes along 99E basically. And after couple years actually, they determined that they wanted to maintain the current passenger rail, which shares some of the freight rail. It's quite expensive, but it's cheaper than the alternative of basically building a new rail. It's more environmentally friendly, but there are impacts to Canby in that probably in about 10 years, they'll have some improvements here through town, probably a double track actually. So they'll have one for freight and one for passenger. There goes a train right now, but that will expedite trips for the passengers, so passenger rail will be improved, but that'll come down the pike eventually and will be, updated on that. So that I found interesting for Canby. So I wanted to tell you about that. And what else? The tour of homes, the Friends of the Library's been doing that for the last many of years. That's coming up this Saturday too, 10 to 3 p.m. It's $15. You get tickets at the library. And there's about 5 different homes that open up their homes on that day, and you can check out their Christmas displays. They're pretty elegant, so if you're into holiday decor, that's the thing for you. And that's all I've got.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Spoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bridging Cultures had their Thanksgiving dinner. As usual, the Saturday before Thanksgiving, I was traveling, so I wasn't able to attend, but I know Councilor Parker went, and I'm not sure if anyone else was able to, but what a fantastic event that is, and I love that they continue to do it. Because I've been traveling, I missed a couple of meetings, but I do know that the Canby Adult Center is having Willamette Valley Hospice at the center on December 13th. If you are grieving over the holiday and you get some services at the Adult Center, you can call the Canby Adult Center. It's 10:30 a.m. December 13th, and they're going to discuss how to cope with grieving during the holidays. So a great service for our senior population. CTV5 is getting very, very close to being in a position to kind of reopen their doors to people creating content for the channel. And I'm going to let them do their announcements because I don't think they've quite publicly announced it yet, but it's going to involve kind of a collaboration with another organization that has a little bit more. They have a full kitchen that could be filmed at, and it'll involve some training so that we know that the people going into CTV5 using the equipment know what they're doing with it, and that the equipment will be maintained in good condition. So keep your eyes and ears open for that if you're interested in going into CTV5 to make some content. And then the other thing is, if you haven't noticed, the snowmen are popping up around town. And so similar to the Scarecrow contest, I think the entries have fluctuated. We lost a couple that couldn't do it, but then we gained a whole bunch at the end. So I think we have somewhere right around 20 entries at the moment, though it's changed to daily. And they're all supposed to be up, I think, by today or tomorrow. So they should all be up by Friday, by First Friday and the festivities. And they're all over, primarily this time 2nd, and there's a couple on 3rd. So look for that, and you can go to the website and vote for your favorite snowman. So that's kind of a fun, festive thing that we have going on downtown. And then I wanted to wish each of you and everyone in Canby a very, very Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Can you tell us more about I'm not aware of the snowman contest or which website you're talking about,
Yeah,
or
okay.
Who these entries are and where this comes from. It sounds like it might be an inside track thing.
Two local businesses are co-hosting the snowman contest this year. Hot Rod Dreamworks is hosting the voting on their website. And so right now they're all local businesses. The businesses that are co-hosting it went out and solicited entries, solicited sponsorships, so that there's a cash prize for the winners. And there were just a couple of parameters on what they can do, but you can make a snowman out of basically anything you wanted. So I've seen today, I know Fisher Supply made one out of a pump tank. Another group made them out of log rounds. Hot Rod Dreamworks made theirs out of oil cans. So they're just kind of made out of whatever. If there's something appropriate to your business or some material you're accustomed to using. And the only thing was it had to be a snowman of some sort. I saw someone, I haven't gone up to see the sign yet, but someone made a melted snowman, and I think that's like the most darling thing I've ever seen. But I'm a little enamored by the Fisher's Pump one. And so then it's just, and it's similar to the Scarecrow contest if you were downtown during the fall, and already I just see so many people stopping and taking pictures, looking at them, trying to figure out what company or what business they're from. And so I think the snowmen are going to be up through New Year's, and I believe that they were asked to take them down the first weekend after New Year's. But there's a sign next to each snowman that has the website, how to vote, the voting period, which I do not recall, though I installed 5 signs this morning in the wind, and I had to chase 4 of them down the street. So I didn't read them, but I chased them. And so it has the dates that the voting is eligible for, and then you just go on the Hot Rod DreamWorks website and vote for your favorite one. And then Shannon has been really great about posting the results online on Canby Now, sharing with the public and the fire department. There's, I believe Todd Gary told me that theirs weighed 8,000 pounds, no, 800, 300 pounds. It's made out of fire hoses, and so they're all so creative and fun. And I just love seeing all the families walking around looking at them and taking pictures. So, yeah, does that answer?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Great, thank you all. Consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the approval of the minutes of November 7th, 2018, City Council regular meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Height to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the November 7th, 2018 City Council regular meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving into resolution and ordinances. Ms. Schaefer.
The first item we have is Resolution 1305. This is adopting a supplemental budget for the 2018-2019 fiscal year.
Great, thank you, Kim.
And I'll ask our finance director to come forward.
Evening, Mayor, councilors. So what you have before you is our first supplemental of the year. Last year we made it till June. Couldn't quite make it that far this year. But there's 2 items in this supplemental budget. The first is to increase our appropriations to cover the cost of 2 new police cars. We have insurance money that's coming in to offset that. It will offset the majority of it. These were cars that were in accidents late in the fiscal year, at the very end of June and very first part of July, so we weren't able to actually get them in the budget. So that's the first item. And the second item is for the new radios for the police department. You'll hear from the chief later tonight with his ordinance to get authorization for the purchase. But we thought we might get the radios by the end of last year, and so we were hoping to pay for them out of last year's budget. They didn't come in until July, so we need to roll the money over and have the appropriation to spend it this year.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on these 2 issues?
And Julie did brief the Budget Committee on this
That's
at our
correct.
last
Thank you.
meeting.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it.
We're appropriating some money for some extra driving lessons.
Oh, that was cold.
Wow.
Spoken, his last meeting, fire guy.
Spoken like a fire,
As a
district
fire
liaison guy. Wow.
We'll teach you how to do it. Maybe that's an Operation Cuddle I'm losing.
Wow, not your night to be a cop.
This might be the last time we see Chief for a while. If she comes to our meetings.
Tyler's going out and stuff.
Yeah. Well,
So
great.
I'll change the subject.
Yeah, if I could take a motion, that'd be great.
Yeah, I move to adopt Resolution 1305, a resolution adopting a supplemental budget for the 2018-19 fiscal year.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Height and seconded by Councilor Spoon to approve Resolution 1305, adopting a supplemental budget for the 2018-19 fiscal year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. Next item.
The next item is Resolution 1306. This is requesting an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Canby and Clackamas County related to road maintenance and permitting authority of Township Road.
And I'll ask Jennifer to come up and speak to this matter.
Good evening, Jennifer.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm good. So this is an interesting resolution because we discovered during the land use process that portions of Township Road weren't actually annexed into the city. So we had a transfer from the county back in 2008, but because the road wasn't fully annexed, it voided the transfer. So in lieu of moving forward with the land use decision, we decided with the county that it was in our best interest to have the county transfer over jurisdiction on a kind of a medium level, and we developed an IGA. And we are in the process of annexing township, so in the future you'll see this come back as an official transfer. So, any questions?
I would point out that much of this area is not currently improved with sidewalks and improved streets, and those improvements will occur as the projects adjacent to township develop out, and they'll be part of the project delivery requirements as that area builds out. So it's not that we're simply taking a road that we're going to maintain in perpetuity without an expectation of improvements. We do have another motivation for doing this with BC Steel looking at an expansion of their operations, and we have a kind of a confusing circumstance where some portion of the property that they own on the north side is within the city limits, some of it on the south side is not. It's been agreed that both Canby Utility and the city will continue to serve BC Steel as we have in the past, even with the expansions, and in order to really facilitate the improvements that the city is requiring, which is the development of those roads to a city standard, including sidewalks and expansion of the streets in the area in front of the improved and proposed improvements, it's necessary for us to get control of that road.
Great. Thank you.
I have a question, actually.
Yes.
So where is the city limit on township? Like, is it at Malino? Is it that far out?
Yeah, it will be anyways. That's within our urban growth boundary.
Okay. And then which land use matter was it that triggered this?
The county was doing some investigation on right-of-way for BB Steel and determined that the section in front of their property line wasn't actually annexed into the city, so there was some confusion on who had actual jurisdictional control.
Okay.
So this IGA is just a temporary process that gives us permitting control and maintenance control over the roadway.
Okay.
And it's actually a very interesting issue because there was an expectation back in 2008 that the annexation would proceed and the transfer of the road would occur. So there's an agreement at that time between the city and the county to facilitate that. But since specific actions didn't occur, the transfer never happened. Where we are today, trying to kind of bridge that gap and allow us to move forward kind of in an appropriate supervisorial oversight role.
So when this is completed, then, even though it sounds like it's an IGA currently, when everything's all said and done, it will officially be viewed and looked at as being ours, as it has been.
Yeah, so once Brian's able to, and Kern McLeod are able to finalize the annexation through the state of the sections of road that aren't actually annexed into the city now, once that's complete, the city can notify the county, and then the county will proceed with taking the transfer to their commission, just like we did for First Street.
Okay. So the Board of County Commissioners has to, in essence, kind of reapprove
exactly
what's already on the books, kind of a situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, would have been on the books had it been completed.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions on that? Does that answer your question, Councilor?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I'll make a motion. I move to adopt resolution number 1306, a resolution requesting an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Canby and Clackamas County related to road maintenance and permitting authority of Township Road.
Thank you.
second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Spoon and seconded by Council President Dale to adopt Resolution number 1306, a resolution requesting an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Canby and Clackamas County related to road maintenance and permitting authority of Township Road. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0.
The next item we have is Resolution 1307. This is adopting new city financial policies.
This will bring Julie back to the microphone.
I think we're just going to play rotating chairs tonight.
Hi, Julie. Again.
Good evening again. So this resolution is bringing forward a set of new financial policies for the city. We did take these to the Budget Committee and have a review process. There was one minor change or addition that the committee requested, and I have added that. These will replace the policies that we currently have in our budget document. And these policies really follow GFOA best practices, Government Finance Officers Association best practices. That's kind of the overarching organization for government finance. And so these follow their best practices and really are very sound principles to work under for all of our fiscal issues.
Great. Did you want to add anything to that?
She already said that she's had the Budget Committee review it, so.
Perfect. Any other questions for Julie at all? Any follow-up off of that? Okay.
That's good.
Perfect. Thank you, Julie.
You guys are easy tonight.
I move to adopt Resolution 1307, a resolution adopting new city financial policies.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Height and seconded by Council President Dale to approve Resolution 1307, adopting new city financial policies. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you, Julie.
The next item you have is Ordinance 1497. This is amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 10.04, City Traffic Code, and this is brought back to you again for first reading.
Yes, as you will all recall, we had a considerable conversation a couple weeks ago about this matter. And after looking extensively at the issues both raised by the residents in the area and the industrial community that spoke during the meeting, I felt it appropriate to take a closer look at ways that we might be able to address the needs of the residents and yet not fully block the needs of the industrial users. What I am asking of you tonight is that you set aside the ordinance that we presented to you in the last meeting and that you consider approving this ordinance that is substantially in the same form with one change and have introduced in first reading on this revision tonight. The only change in this ordinance as presented to you tonight in comparison with what we discussed at the last council meeting is the addition of one new definition, and that is the definition of local truck. And this new definition is local truck means any truck that begins or ends a trip within the city limits of the city of Canby. This is particularly relevant because it acknowledges that there are certain businesses within the city of Canby that do commerce within and outside of the city of Canby, and that there are times that they need to use the city's roads to accomplish that commerce. We also acknowledge that there are businesses that are resident outside the city but come in and actually do commerce by delivering packages, UPS, Federal Express, and those types of businesses. And we have an allowance for that in another section, a local delivery definition in this same ordinance. So what local truck does is it provides one additional tool for the city to use in establishing prohibitions on streets that are not identified within our transportation system plan for those trucks that just want to pass through. And we can restrict and prohibit and in fact ticket trucks that are just using our streets to get from Malala to Salem, or, from anywhere other than Canby to anywhere other than Canby. And that's one of the big challenges that we have in a number of streets within the city of Canby, is that commerce passing through but not stopping in to contribute either to our economy or to the betterment of our community. So what I'm proposing to you tonight is that we add just this one definition. It provides us one additional tool in our toolbox that can be used or not used depending on the circumstances and what will fit best in any particular need. That gives us an opportunity to post a no truck with certain specific exceptions. And it could say no truck except for local deliveries and local trucks only, citing the city's ordinance, and or any or all of the above. So it just gives us some flexibility and discretion to be able to address the concerns of the neighborhoods without too harshly tying the hands of commerce that live and work and contribute here. So that in a nutshell is the substance of the change that I am proposing that you make, and the only other change you'll see is in 10.04.145, adding, in addition to the language that was always there, the recognition of local truck only as a possible listing in a no truck zone. Beyond that, the ordinance that we had spoken of at length 2 weeks ago is the same as what you're seeing today. Staff recommendation is to approve the revisions and reintroduce the ordinance.
So in essence, we've pulled the one from 2 weeks ago.
Yes, and we're starting over again.
And basically
starting the approval process over again.
Got it. With the new language. Thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, I voted no last week, and I was asked by a few people why I voted no on the one, or last meeting, I should say. And it's because it was clear to me that that area, that road, was originally designed and planned to be our truck route. But with the addition of the Dinsmore Estates, Valley Farms, Ackerman's been there a long time, and then particularly when you get to the west side of town, is not constructed and not conducive. It's got speed bumps, it's got, borders of school the entire way. It's not conductive physically for, a truck route. And so I don't think it actually should be used as a truck route. But it was, to my opinion, designed to be the truck route. But I think the better policy and what we should be pushing to do is direct traffic with street contours, speed limits, speed bumps, physical dimensions and planning, rather than prohibition. If you've ever been on Google Maps, if you've ever driven big rigs, if you've ever done those things, once you start going a certain route, or you get directed a certain route, it's not easy to get back on track. And I don't believe that the right policy is just an outright prohibition on somebody going down that road if they, it's a public road. If they end up accidentally getting on it, when they didn't want to be there, or they have to use that because it gets into their route, I didn't think that an outright prohibition was the right way to direct traffic. With these changes, I can support this new one, but that's why I voted no last week, and I still think it's the same thing, that road design, speed limits, contours, etc., physical barriers should be the way we keep trucks off of roads we want to keep them off of, rather than a prohibition.
So you're saying more of an expansion of some of the items that are already laid out along 13th as it is, right? If that's the end main goal, to prohibit.
Right. If we want to discourage them from being there, we discourage them with physical barriers. If somebody actually has to use it out of necessity, maybe it's inconvenient for that commercial truck driver, so they don't do it very often, but they accidentally go down there a time or two and they deal.
Okay. But this newer language that's in here is...
It has the exception for our local businesses with that local trucks, which makes it sort of a non-inconvenience for our local businesses, which I guess makes it easier to pallet.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I've got a comment. I'm not a fan of extra barriers like speed humps for sure. But besides the point, that's a bit besides the point. But Rick, I'm glad that you had the desire to problem solve this, I think. It still feels like we're still a little bit in a sticky situation, like what is our truck route? So we still have to kind of go back to that. But I do like this compromise a bit. I'm wondering though, a commercial truck, what would motivate them to take that route anyway? Why don't they just take 90/90? Isn't that the most direct route? Like, why would they if they're not?
I think that the majority of the trucks that are using that particular route, and I cautioned you at the last meeting, and I need to caution you again that this isn't specifically about Southeast 13th Avenue. It's about all of the truck routes that are designated truck routes within our transportation system plan. But what we've seen on that particular street, and I think it's relevant in a number of streets that are identified as city streets that are not identified in the TSP as truck routes, is that frequently the biggest problem is in 13th. The biggest problem I see on a day in and day out basis is trucks, particularly dump trucks that are traveling from a quarry maybe out by Malala and taking the shortest route, which takes them right down 13th to Burke Parkway and exit left onto Highway 99 as an alternative to taking that same route but turning onto Sequoia, which is a designated truck route, and making the trip and not going through that residential and school area. So, and I think that the proposed change helps us to recognize and limit the access of those persons that are simply not contributing to the commerce and the benefit, but using that road that's not a designated road for their personal benefit and personal gain at the expense of the residents of the community. It's just a way to kind of be very targeted in how we try to protect our citizens that live in that area and students that attend schools in that area.
Interesting. I wonder what percentage. I mean, it's impossible to tell, I'm sure. I'm just curious. I'm thinking how many trucks, actually just pass through like that versus how many are, originate in the industrial park or end up there.
We don't have many in the industrial park that will actually travel south to get north or south.
I see.
And because trucks, industrial businesses are really, really dollar savvy. And they're going to look at a route and they're going to select the route that is the lowest cost route to them. And if they have to add a half mile per trip to their cost, that's a fairly significant cost to them. So they're going to try to identify the most direct route from point A to point B. And it typically doesn't include going away from their destination to catch a road that may or may not be more convenient. In the case of 13th, I don't know that it is, and so we don't see a lot of truck traffic except maybe at times where there's been an accident on 99 or some occurrence pushes them into an alternate route just so that they can continue to move their products. And those are exceptions that we want to be able to allow, but at the same time, we don't want to burden our residents with traffic that's created from businesses that are not contributing either to the residents or to the commerce of the community.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Councilor Spoo?
Yes, I'm pleased with the language changes. I think that it makes a little bit more sense and it clears up some of the ambiguity about who can and can't use roads that I think was left behind last time. I would hope that, at some point we can, whether it's just directly with, me and you, somehow I can have some further conversation with you about that space, particularly like in regards to what Councilor Smith was saying. I think a lot of the same things he was discussing about why Southwest or Southeast 13th doesn't make a lot of sense as a truck route also apply to Southwest 13th, but it is a designated truck route. There's residential roads. In fact, residents on Southeast 13th I guess I had them backwards. On Southwest 13th, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
On Southwest 13th, even have to cross 13th to get their mail where there aren't even walking, like pedestrian areas. It backs the school. There's significant parking issues along the street during sporting events. If Southeast 13th doesn't make sense as a truck route, I'm really, really conflicted about why Southwest 13th does. There's a lot of confusion and ambiguity there for me, and I would really love to have some further conversation about that at some point so I can either better understand it. Because if trucks aren't supposed to use Southeast 13th, I don't understand how they get to Southwest 13th. So I just have a little bit of confusion, and I feel like some of the same principles about why one road wouldn't be a truck route apply to the other section. So I would just like some clarity. I know I've talked to a few citizens about it who have the same confusion I do that I expressed at the last meeting, and I just want to make sure I better understand it, if that's the way it's going to be, or that we potentially open that conversation back
Yeah,
up.
I'd be happy to share
Okay.
that information with you. Maybe we can sit down over a cup of coffee and I can show you visually what the logic is that created that originally, both in terms of the way it is today, after the Burke Parkway was connected to Highway 99, which is a fairly recent, within the last 10 years occurrence. And the larger intent of being able to move commerce instead of down Ivy Street to 99 from the
But from
Canby
where is
Markham
my
Highway,
question? From where?
to 13th, and then redirecting it down 13th across what originally was supposed to be an overpass, and then down 3rd Avenue to
Right.
connect to another bridge that takes it out to the freeway. So there's a larger vision that is
Right.
that's costly, but
I guess I'm a little bit sensitive to the language of all of the conversation about disrupting the residents on one side of Ivy, but with much less concern for residents who have to cross the street to get their mail on the other side of Ivy. And to me, it feels a little bit like all of the language we're using to discuss Southeast 13th equitably applies to Southwest 13th. And I understand that there's a larger vision there, but I just like when we're talking about it, we're using language like disruptive to the residents and this and that, as though the residents on the other side of Ivy aren't at some points even more impacted by the disruption of trucks. And so I guess I'm just having some...
Well, at the risk of adding confusion to the conversation, Southwest 13th from South Ivy to Burke Parkway and Highway 99 is a designated truck route, and so can't be signed without an amendment to the transportation system plan, which changes the designated truck routes, which requires traffic studies and public hearings and public testimony. So it's a longer process. It could certainly be done, but there are two components, and the two are in some respects mutually exclusive. One is those streets within the city of Canby that have formally been designated pursuant to our transportation system plan as truck routes, and all of the other streets that have not. And so that's kind of that dichotomy that in that discussion.
Right. If we're going to talk about disrupting residents, I think, to be really honest about the fact that one side of Ivy is not treated with equal concern in terms of disruption as the other side. And so I'm a little bit sensitive to that. I've talked to some residents that are concerned when they cross the street to get their mail. So, so that, I have one other question. Some of the people that came at the last meeting to discuss that road had paperwork with them regarding agreements that were made at the time that, was it a bond? I'm trying to recall now, that some paperwork agreement regarding the industrial businesses and the usage of that road. And I'm wondering if we were able to get to the bottom of that, to find the paperwork, to evaluate it and determine if we actually have an obligation there that we haven't assessed.
I think that the short answer is yes, I believe we have. And yes, we have. I believe we've gotten to the bottom of it. I believe this is the solution that's on the table is the best solution available, short of commissioning a transportation or a study, and with the intent to reopen the discussion about appropriate truck routes through the city of Canby. And honestly, I don't think either the residents or the industrial users and property owners were terribly excited about the idea of having to go through that entire process. We did include for you the public testimony from the 2010 public hearing, at which the issue of Southeast 13th was discussed, and more importantly, the issue of the appropriate placement of truck routes that led finally to the determination of the truck routes that were included within the transportation system plan when it was adopted in 2010.
Okay.
So it was a fairly exhaustive process with a lot of public testimony, a lot of public input, a lot of differences of opinion. And as an example, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds because we can talk about this offline,
Sure.
but just as an example, you can read two documents, both of which are official documents. One is the city's application for funding that really points to a different expected outcome at the Burke Parkway intersection to Highway 99 than the report that was prepared by the state representative in recommending that the project funding be approved for Burke Parkway. And so I think that there was kind of a metamorphosis, a change in expectations over time, and I think that was driven in large part by public testimony, public input, and public involvement. And when I say public, I mean both relative to people who lived in the areas that would be affected, and we're now talking about specifically the 13th Avenue relative to this topic, and the industrial users that would be affected if they couldn't use what in fact is a designated arterial in the city of Canby to move their commerce. What I've tried to do here is fashion a proposed change that would provide some limited benefit to both parties, and avoid, for the time being, a fight that neither party would know the outcome of.
Right.
And so, at least for the time being, I think that everybody's gotten to their corner reasonably satisfied that we can help them meet their needs.
Right. So you're comfortable saying that we're fulfilling the obligations that we've set out to, or at least that all parties involved in that agreement are comfortable with this
Well,
solution?
I'm comfortable in saying that we are continuing to do what appears to be the intent at the conclusion of the 2010 public hearing.
Perfect. Thank you so much for doing all that work and getting to the bottom of it.
Yeah, and by the way, if Rick and Councilor Spoon do have this conversation over coffee, CC me on it, because if I can, I'll get involved. I'd like to be part of that too. It's interesting.
It is more an interesting conversation about the history of the discussion than anything else.
Okay.
But it is actually pretty fascinating.
Okay. Good.
That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of ordinance number 1497, an ordinance amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 10.04, City Traffic Code.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Height to approve ordinance 1497, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 10.04, the City Traffic Code. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 5-0.
The next item you have is ordinance 1498. This is before you for second reading. This is amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 2.40.030 and 2.40.040 regarding the public library.
This is the second reading, as you will recall, and I told Irene that she did not have to spend the night here to just address this item on a second reading, so I gave her the evening off and indicated I would cover it on her behalf. The proposal before you comes with the recommendation of the library board to increase from 5 to 7 the number of voting members would be appointed by the city council, as well as a non-voting member who is a high school student within the Canby School District boundaries. In this language change, it would also indicate that 2 of the 7 members would be required to be resident outside the city limits of the city.
Yeah,
But in the library district.
But within the library district.
yeah. That's a tough one, really, because if they cannot recruit, I mean, it's hard to recruit members for these boards, and especially, you know, you have a smaller pool. I mean, they live outside the city limits, they're not necessarily as vested, and I know the board's going to try, but if they don't succeed in finding members that are outside the city limits, I guess that my question is, what's the worst-case scenario, Joe? The quorum is just more difficult.
Yeah, as long as they have a quorum, they can still hold meetings. They just have to have a quorum there.
And the quorum will have to be...
Of the 7.
Of the 7, even if there's only 6.
They'll need to have 4 show up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the
That's what the county's...
That's the risk of expanding the
Yeah.
boards and commissions that way,
Right.
committees.
Yeah, and I realize the county is pressuring libraries
Yeah,
to...
within
they're
this
wanting-
context, there is significant pressure on
Yeah.
all of the libraries within Clackamas County to have
Yeah.
both residents within their cities and residents within their library
Yeah.
service area that are not city residents,
Mhm.
to have a better, more reflective representation.
Yeah.
So we're trying to accomplish that which the county has charged us with accomplishing. We recognize that there could be some pitfalls.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. I'll take a motion.
Okay. I move that we adopt ordinance 1498, amending the Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 2.40.030 and 2.40.040 regarding the public library.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilor Height and seconded by Councilor Spoon to approve ordinance 1498, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 2.40.030 and 2.40.040 regarding the public library for second reading and roll call vote.
Counselor Smith?
Aye.
Counselor Parker?
Aye.
Counselor Dale?
Aye.
Counselor Height?
Aye.
Counselor Spoon?
Aye.
Great, motion carries 5-0.
The next item you have is ordinance 1499. This is authorizing a contract with the Clackamas 800 Radio Group for the purchase of new replacement Motorola radios for the Canby Police Department and declaring an emergency.
Chief Smith has waited all night for this, so I'm going to ask him to come forward.
Well, they finally arrived, and the radios are great. So everyone might remember the bond measure that went out in 2016. I think everybody was pretty supportive of that. It was a replacement and enhancement radio system for all of Clackamas County, and we finally got our radios. It took a while. It's one of the larger projects, probably nationally, in the sense of all the different agencies that are involved in purchasing these radios, to include Washington County, and we work with Washington County. Their dispatch system, WACA. So as a result of a large number of people and try to coordinate the communication systems, it took a long time. So we finally got them. We'll receive an enhancement in about a year. Already the radios are working much better than the old ones, have reception in some of the buildings much better than we did before with the old system. With the enhancement in a year from now, we expect greater reception capability. So it's obviously a safety issue, but it's also a system that's built to withstand emergencies such as earthquakes or other kind of disastrous type of things. So it's a system that has sustainability for those type of events, which the old system did not. So there'd be additional antennas, there's additional communication enhancement equipment, in addition to the better radios and better communication capabilities that we'll have. So we're excited about it. It came to about, as you saw, about a $55,000 plus cost to the city, which is a substantial overall reduction what it would cost us as a city to replace that for everybody. So we're very excited about it, and so we appreciate the support.
Yeah, if I may share a conversation that the chief and I had probably 2 years, 18 months to 2 years ago in the old, it was the old Starbucks, I remember it very clearly.
Trying to get ready for this.
My favorite Ed Meyer. We were talking about the costs of the radios, and at the time the estimate was about $225,000 to replace the radios, and we had both come to the conclusion that's way too much money, and that if the county was going to be mandating the radios, that there should be a mechanism in place in the bond measure to pay a portion or some portion or all of the radio acquisitions. So the chief put that recommendation on the table, got his fellow chiefs to support it, and because of the action of the chief, I think that was the primary driving factor. I don't believe that was even considered until you presented it as a recommendation to allow the poorer cities, and I don't necessarily mean just Canby, because there are a number in Clackamas County that would have really struggled with the ability to pay for the radios, to have a portion of the costs absorbed in the bond itself. So I want to compliment Chief Smith for that successful outcome and the ability to not only bring the price down, but then the county stepping forward and negotiating such a great buy on a group quantity purchase. It just worked out really well. Difference between $225,000 and $56,000.
Yeah. So those include radios for our cars as well. So it's a complete package from the portable to air to our cars. And so, and we started early too. So some of the costs is that we anticipated future costs, so we try to anticipate those costs and trying to replace when available our new cars with that radio system, so that when the system would arrive, it would catch up with the advanced technology and be ready to go, so there'd be an offset on those costs. So we weren't replacing radios in addition to that. So we tried to preload, so to speak, and offset that. So it worked out really well for us, but from a radio system perspective and safety and just good, clear communication, it's a much better system. Should last a long time. Unfortunately, they don't last forever. So, we'll be revisiting this at some time down the road, but much longer. I think the old system we had was about 20 years old or something like that.
Great. Thanks, Chief.
Good.
Yeah.
Questions for Chief? Yes, Councilor Parker.
Chief, I'm not familiar with a couple of the words that are used here in this. We talk about a discount and we talk about a stipend here. So is the total cost of the entire package about $450,000? We're only paying $55,000?
That's correct. Something similar. I don't have that number in front of me, but that's about right.
So it went up from $250,000 to $450,000
Yeah, originally we
from your coffee?
were looking at just the...
We were thinking about what our net cost would have been. At the time when we had these discussions, we didn't really know where that number was going to land.
Okay.
So we were trying to forecast what we thought the potential largest impact to our city could be. When the bond passed and we were able to come up with a recommendation number for that bond to cover these costs, then that number began to change, and it lowered this cost here to 55.
Well, I'm pleased that whatever the cost is, that ours is the smaller number. But when you talk about a $192,000 discount, is that discount from Motorola Corporation? And then the stipend is from the radio group, from the bond?
I believe that's correct. It's going to be a discount for Motorola through negotiations, through some of the conversations regarding technology replacements and decisions that way, and then them being a vendor for the CCOM, and the other is going to be the offset that the bond gives us as a proportion of that pot of money.
Okay.
And so it's going to, every agency is going to be a little different based on the number of radios they have and their city.
How many vendors are there out in the marketplace that do this? I thought there was only Motorola.
No, there's several out there. Harris, example, was another vendor company. Harris is one of the bidders that were just the two. Harris is a real big one on the East Coast.
All right. Well, a $200,000 discount is a pretty decent thing. So kudos to whoever negotiated that one.
Yeah, Chief did a great job.
Well, in our fire department, everybody is, the first responders really Clackamas County, so our fire departments are in the same package here.
That's all, man. Great. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 1499, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Clackamas 800 Radio Group for the purchase of new replacement Motorola radios for Canby Police Department and declaring an emergency, to come up for second reading on January 2nd, 2019.
Second.
Motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Council Parker to approve ordinance 1499, an ordinance establishing, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Clackamas 800 Radio Group for the purchase of new replacement Motorola radios for Canby Police Department and declaring an emergency, and to come up for second reading on January 2nd, 2019. Any other discussion?
Mayor. Oh,
Yep.
Sarah first.
I'm going to, on behalf of Councilor Hensley,
That's where I was going.
say that I assume that we're declaring an emergency because of the timing of the budget and the necessity to pay for them.
Yeah, to pay timely for the cost of the units.
I knew that she would want that.
Yes.
Very kind, very kind.
Great.
Well, and it is emergency related, so it is for the safety and welfare, which is one of the standards that you have to meet in order to have an emergency.
Good to know.
Great. Any other discussion points? Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. New business item for this evening is the discussion on canceling our December 19th, 2018 City Council meeting. I know that we've got one councilor that will be out, possibly a second. There are other thoughts on continuing or have that meeting scheduled for the 19th? So, yeah. Council Parker is for having the meeting.
He's going to fly back for it because he's so excited.
Remote in.
I was going to leave that off the table, but, okay.
I imagine our city recorder has probably just a dearth of things on the agenda for that night anyways.
Based on some conversations I've been having lately with all y'all, I'm pretty sure we could probably fill an agenda. So, it's your guys' call. I'm putting it out there.
January.
I'm seeing consensus that we are going to do away with the 19th meeting and enjoy the holiday season in a robust fashion. Okay.
Robust.
Mr. Robinson, administrator business or staff report?
Yeah, just a couple of things. One is I wanted to, and it was mentioned earlier this evening, and readdress the outstanding work that our Public Works crew and Canby Utility in loaning us staff and resources did in getting our new sequoia trees on First Avenue installed, and then our Public Works and Parks crew in getting those same trees lit for this season's festivities. I think it was just a wonderful effort, and the trees are going to add so much to our downtown community. I would also remind the council and the public that the bi-monthly report is attached to the agenda packet that you received. I would encourage you to read it, paying particular attention to all of the activity that's happening out of planning, community development, economic development activities. Are pages and pages of projects and permits that that they are juggling on a day-to-day basis. Finally, I would just update you quickly on the Elm Street project and the quiet zone that is continuing to move forward. Our engineers are working with both ODOT and UP Railroad. They'll be having a meeting coming up in the next several weeks to begin talking about the proposed realignment. We have drawings now at 30% completion, so we have schematic drawings for both ODOT and UP Railroad to take a look at. It includes the center medians where required to limit turning and prohibit turning out into the adjacent lanes. And the project and the process is moving forward as smoothly as one of these kind of projects can move forward. And that's all I have for tonight.
Great, thank you. A second opportunity for citizen input.
Anyone wishes to opine?
Maybe I could add one more topic, if that's okay, before you adjourn.
As a citizen.
You put it under citizen.
He is a citizen,
We'll
yeah.
make this, you do live in this.
I couldn't
Kim,
read.
you have a yellow card for citizen for his
Start the
input?
timer.
3 minutes.
She's starting the timer.
I think this is actually extremely relevant, and we've spent a ton of time in the last 10 days or so trying to coordinate what is not a new project, but it's a project that is not a project identified in our transportation system plan. So we're trying to work through it as an urban renewal project. And that is signalization of the intersection at Hazeldale and Sequoia. Because it is not within the transportation system plan, we don't have STC eligibility, so that funding option is not available. Given the imminent need for that intersection, which, looking at the traffic studies, exists today, irrespective of the anticipated increase if Project Shakespeare is approved, which, by the way, is only 5% of the total capacity of that intersection. So certainly material, but it's approximately the same as Sequoia Grove Apartments when that traffic study and analysis was done on that particular project, 4 to 5%. So we're working, it is right now from a land use perspective, the top priority that I'm working on. And as I have shared with you earlier, our Public Works Director has taken another position, and we wish her the very best of luck. She's heading to Eastern Oregon, and just looking forward to, I think, some new digs, and we wish her the best. So we're taking those roles and responsibilities on and shifting them between Amanda and I to keep these very, very critical projects going as smoothly as we can. But so for right now, I've had meetings with engineers already on the project. We have some started working. There's a material issue that we need to address with ODOT, so we'll be bringing in traffic engineers who will also be working on the design engineering for the signalization, and it's all about queuing and stacking and the impact of the new signal on the 99 Sequoia/Redwood intersection. And so we'll be working with ODOT to be able to address the best way to implement that improvement in that intersection. My goal is to be out to bid on that project by this spring and have it under construction this summer and completed before the fall. That's what my personal timeline is.
Rick, you mentioned something about can you go back in your comments about, you mentioned 4 to 5%. What was that?
Well, the Sequoia Grove Apartments also had a traffic study, and in that traffic study, as I recall, the impact that was identified for those 170 odd units on the Sequoia Hazeldale intersection was in the 4 to 5% range, and so we did receive funding equivalent to that from the developers of the Hazeldale apartments. The same thing will happen on for the Project Shakespeare if it ultimately is approved. And I would remind everybody that is just starting through the approval process. There's an expectation that the project is all done, and that's the farthest thing from the truth. Project Shakespeare goes through the same review and approval process that every project that comes to the city goes through. I would also add that, because there's been a little bit of confusion here as well, that this project is being constructed outside of our urban renewal district. It's just outside the district boundary. When the city established the URD boundaries, it established it down Walnut Street as the northernmost boundary, or easternmost, depending on how you're standing. And this project goes between Walnut and Malina, which are outside of the URD. And so the tax increment that accrues will actually accrue to the city and the other taxing jurisdictions that would otherwise receive tax revenue from those lands. So Fire, who has already left, will receive a tax benefit, as will the county and the city on this project.
So are we anticipating then that 5%, that 4 or 5% piece that we had with Sequoia Grove, is that a similar anticipated impact?
Yeah, that's going to be the recommendation that comes out of the traffic study. I'd mentioned to you a couple times, and I need to reiterate it, that when we mentioned to you a couple times, and then it just slipped my mind again. Old age just creeping up on me. And Councillor Smith reminded me that the dinosaur probably had dual meanings.
Oh my. He's harsh tonight. 2 for 2.
The traffic study does have a component that when the traffic study is done for Project Shakespeare, and you'll see it in a final form, it will have recommendations, mitigation recommendations, and I reviewed the draft study, which is not the final study, reviewed the draft study, and it does appear that based on increased traffic volumes and the impact at Hazeldale and Sequoia, that the study would indicate that the impact at that intersection will be about equivalent to 5% of the total traffic volume. So we would receive compensation for that. That would go into a special fund for this project, for the signalization as well. We'll have those funds. We'll have some urban renewal funds that we have currently available to address for this project. And we're looking at the potential to do some grant applications that may help us offset some of these costs. But we won't allow this project to be delayed based on a failure to achieve grant revenue, because we view it as a high priority. Whether the Shakespeare project goes forward or not, it's a high priority because it's already designated as an overused intersection. And I'm not the technical expert on traffic studies, and so I can't tell you what it is, but it's in the range of A to Z. It's somewhere down below. It's above 100% of what rated capacity would be for that intersection today as it existed. And the additional 5% certainly not going to help it. The additional connection to Highway 99, if we're ever able to develop an agreement with ODOT, and this is our biggest obstacle right now, is as we look at another connection between our industrial park and Highway 99, our biggest obstacle is finding a solution and mitigation that ODOT will accept and allow us to proceed to designate a preferred route, which will allow us to initiate the engineering, allow us to complete our update to our transportation system plan, which would make the project SCC eligible, which would give us a funding source that would be available for matching funds as we pursue grants and state-sponsored loan programs to be able to construct the project. So a lot of moving parts. We have to set, if we're prudent at all, we have to set aside for now the Highway 99 connection, because ODOT is simply going to shut it down. Could be 2 years before they agree. It could be 2 months, but we do know that we can have an immediate positive impact if we pursue the 99 signalization, and that our residents will see an immediate benefit from that. And so that's my goal, is to have that in the books and under construction sometime during the summer, and hopefully the lights will twinkle this fall before I depart you.
Councilor Parker, you had a question?
Yeah, back to the stoplight. A little piece of Canby history. Is this going to be our first city stoplight?
Yeah, it will be.
Nice poll.
And the light at 6th and Township, when the South Ivy project is done, will be our second one. And the light at 13th and and
Ivy.
Ivy, which is now state administered, will end up coming to us and being our third one.
Well, the old farmer's letter back home of, well, we finally got our first stoplight in the city. Canby's finally going to get its first stoplight.
That's good.
Yeah. So we have a lot going on, and I apologize that I don't always do a great job of communicating this, but sometimes there are so many moving parts, and we are juggling and moving in different directions and modifying our priorities based on our ability to be successful. Which is, right now the key criteria. What can we deliver to the community that's going to have the greatest immediate impact with using the resources we have available to apply to that particular solution? And those are the ones that we're putting the most staff time and resource to, and with the goal of making this community a better community for the people that are here every day. And that. Thank you for allowing me to share that.
You are more than welcome. It was good information to share. Thank you. Kim, action review.
You have approved the consent agenda. You've adopted resolutions 1305, 1306, 1307. You've approved ordinance 1497 to come up for second reading on January 2nd, adopted ordinance 1498, and you've also approved ordinance 1499 to come up for reading on January 2nd. For second reading, excuse me. And the city council meeting scheduled for December 19th has been canceled.
Great. Joe?
There is no exec session tonight. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, Joe. And I was just going to say the same before I ask for a motion to adjourn. Merry Christmas to all of you. Merry Christmas to everyone at home. The three of you out in the audience that are still here, Merry Christmas. Don't forget tree lighting and park lighting and all things fabulous in Canby on Friday night. Please come down. I know that Kiwanis will be collecting food, so if you think of it, bring down some food and toys. And stay downtown. There's a lot going on, and look at all the snowmen.
Yes.
Yeah, snowmen, 20 of them.
Who knew? Ish.
We'll say 20-ish. So
one melted.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
Right.
A second?
Yeah, right. Second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Good night, Canby. Merry Christmas.